The outcry against CHRAJ boss Loretta Lamte won't go away. As it emerges, she still lives in a hotel costing over $450 a day. This revelation comes 3 months after controversies surrounding her rent expenditure sparked public condemnation. Former boss of the commission, Emil Short, is of the view that the state could save a lot of money if it abolished the policy of free accommodation for public officials. And the Ghana Integrity Initiative says Ms. Lamte must save the commission any further embarrassment by resigning. So why is this still an issue months after her rent expenditure expose? Who is still paying for her continued stay in a hotel? How could such waste be justified? This is today's big story. Now, sometime in September this year, the Commissioner of CHRAJ, Loretta Lamte, and her huge expenditure on rent at the African Union Village became a subject of controversy, leading many to question the moral basis of her stay in a hotel while the upgrade repairs on her official residence were underway. In August this year, she moved into the hotel after her $5,500 a month rent for the apartment, including utility bills at the AU Village, expired. Now, the daily rate of the hotel she currently stays is the city equivalent of $456.25. Well, the bottom line is that she still lives there months after the revelation was made public. Many civil society groups are unhappy about this development and are calling for Ms. Lamte to be excused from office. We're trying to get onto the line Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Vitus Azim, who has some strong views about the issue. We're joined on the line now by Vitus Azim. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time. Right, we're still trying to raise Vitus Azim on the telephone line, and when we get him, we'll bring him on. But if you've just joined us, this is today's big story, and we're exploring the continued stay of the CHRAJ boss, Loretta Lamte, in a hotel which is costing over $450. Now, this revelation comes 3 months after controversies that surround her expenditure sparked public condemnation. The former boss of the commission, Emil Short, is of the view that the state could save a lot of money, actually, if it abolished the policy on free accommodation for public officials. We will be getting on the telephone lines to speak to the Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, Samson Ahi, to explore that issue of scrapping the free accommodation for public officials. And the Ghana Integrity Initiative is also of the view that the CHRAJ boss must resign to save the commission further embarrassment. We'll be trying to raise all these people back onto the telephone line. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to today's big story, and we have on the telephone line former CHRAJ boss, Justice Emil Short. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, and thanks for inviting me to speak to you.
Now, you've made the suggestion that government should consider scrapping the free accommodation for public sector workers. Is this not too harsh? And I reckon that this also comes with a huge financial cost to even begin.
Well, I mean, it's a policy that has to be phased out eventually, because I think it is costing government a lot more than if government were to pay, workers a realistic salary and get them to find their own accommodation and provide for their own medical bill and their house help and everything. At the moment, public officials who occupy government bungalows, there's a lot of waste in these houses, and unless the head of the institution is able to control the inmates of the house, there's a lot of wastage. I mean, air conditioners are put on all day long, and there is no limit, for example, to the amount of electricity that you are allowed to spend, or water. So government takes care of all the bills, all the utility bills, have to find you accommodation, provide you medical care for you and your family. I think in the long run, it will make more economic sense if government, pays these workers, the top workers, apart from maybe the president and a few people, a realistic wage, and let them find their own accommodation and take care of their own financial needs, and let them decide how they want to spend their money. The other reason for that is this, that when you pay people realistic salaries and let them manage their own resources, they are able to invest for the future. They're able to plan their future, plan their retirement. The present system is such that sometimes public officers, because they depend so much on government, everything that you use, even the chair you sit on, the furniture in your room, everything belongs to government. Sometimes, if you are not careful, you will find that you get to retirement age and you haven't been able to plan your future. So I think in the long run, it will be better if this policy is phased out. And let me give you an example. When I went on secondment to Arusha, International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, all the judges there, they were just paid our salary. The institution will come for you in the morning and take you back, take you for lunch, bring you back, and after work they take you home. You have to provide your own accommodation, take care of your medical bills, your house help, and everything. If you want to use even a vehicle of the institution, you sign for it, and they charge you mileage, which is deducted from your salary.
And were these,
so everything is well regulated.
Were all these captured in the salaries?
Of course, it's costed in the salary. It's costed in the salary, and so the institution avoids waste, unnecessary waste, and unnecessary, expenditure. People are given 4x4, which are used in a very, reckless manner. Petrol is used without due consideration for the way it is used. So I think there is a lot of wastage and a lot of mismanagement of these resources which are made available. And it will be, I think the public sector wage bill, which is presently so huge, will be reduced considerably if government were to compute the salaries realistically, and pay such high public officials their realistic salary, and allow them to decide where they want to live. For example, with accommodation, if somebody wants to decide to live in Kokomlemle, or he wants to live in airport, he or she will decide where she wants to live, and save whatever money he or she wants to save.
Right.
And then that you have to pay for your own electricity and water and so on. You would manage it in a very judicious manner.
Right.
But presently, I know, I work in the public service. I know that there's a lot of waste.
That's right.
At the expense of government, and I think that this policy eventually should be phased out.
Right. Justice Short, we'll have you hold briefly. I will return to you and continue the discussion. Samson Ahi, who is Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, is also joining us on the other telephone line. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Justice Short is making a very, very important suggestion that we should, as a country, be thinking about beginning to phase out the free accommodation policy for top public officials so that we save money. What do you say to that?
Yeah, good evening to your listeners, and let me start by saying that this school of thought is already on the table.
I see.
For discussion, and that policy has advantages and disadvantages.
And what are these?
And if you look at the fact that the state has to house government officials, and the moment the policy is that if a government official who is entitled to official accommodation and you don't have one, you are giving 20% of your basic salary as the way of rent. So if you look at our system, it is true, if you go to UK or US or advanced countries, they don't provide accommodation for government officials. What they do is what Mr. Shaw said, that all those are embedded in your salary. And so you are allowed to rent your own house. You pay for your bills, that is your utility bills and so on and so forth.
But Mr. Justice Short makes reference to wastage, that if we phase out this policy, we'll save a lot. I mean, there's a lot of waste in the system. We provide housing for people, we provide free fuel, sometimes free vehicles, and they still keep their salary. You were just telling me that when the state is unable to provide accommodation for public official, you go ahead and advance 20% of their salaries to be paid towards rent. Why can't you phase out the accommodation and maintain this 20% for rent throughout the tenure of their employment? You don't think that will save the country money?
Yeah, I heard him say that there's too much wastage in the system because of reckless use of maybe power and water and so on and so forth. But if you could remember, the president directed that we face meters in all government bungalows, the ministers, the chief directors. And so as we speak, we have faced prepaid meters in all the government bungalows. And so ministers are paying for their own power. They are paying for their own water bills and so on and so forth. So I agree with him that every 4 years we have to spend money to renovate the such facilities and change furniture and so on and so forth. All those things come with a cost. But the problem will be that if you look at our system, transportation problems, traffic congestions in Accra, you know, almost all the ministries
should that be a consideration that you make when you want to house a public official or not house them? Must you care about the traffic?
If you look at the current system, we have most of our houses around Ridge, Osu, and Cantonment, which is very close to the ministry. And the idea was that because I'm still in the office, I will close around 8:30. Sometimes you may even leave the office 10:30 and 9:30 to 10. And the next morning by 8 o'clock, you should be in the office. So if I'm living in Tema, which it will take me 3 hours in traffic to get to the office, and I'm residing in Tema, you know, I have to close from the office around 10 o'clock and then come back to the office in the morning 8 o'clock. These are problems which we cannot compare ourselves to the advanced countries where they have reliable transportation and those kind of stuff. Apart from that, I don't have any problem with that policy that when you are appointed or when you are chief director, all those things should be factored in your salaries so that you are given a place. And I agree with him when he said that even
Ghana currently has a social
the officer to plan for the future, because if you have a place, if you are housed by the state, the tendency is that you are short of accommodation until you reach 50. And so today, when you come to my office, a lot of people come to my office to plead, even though they are retired, they have been retired, but they are always asking for, give me 1 year. I'm about to roof my house, and so on and so forth. And so it also has its challenges. But I think it's a good debate that we have to open it and discuss and decide as a country what we want for us.
I'll come back to you, and then I'll ask you further questions about when the timelines we expect that such a policy could be made realistic. Let me go get a quick reaction from Justice Short. Mr. Short, you heard the Deputy Minister. Anything you want to say about some of the reasons and justification he has for the state continuing to house public servants?
Well, I mean, accommodation within Accra at the moment is hardly available within the center of Accra. It's overcrowded, and so most of the accommodation that government will have to look for public officials at the moment will have to be outside Accra. With regard to the transportation problem, that is a problem that is faced by everybody. It wouldn't be only these public officials. Everybody who has to be at work at a certain time faces this transportation problem, and we all need to take the time that we would spend in traffic into account in determining when we leave our houses.
Right.
So I don't think that is a problem that is peculiar to the heads of institutions or these higher public officials. It's a problem that each and every one of us faces.
Right.
And I don't really see the argument in that.
Right. Just short, I'd like us to move to our substantive issue that we were about to discuss earlier. I mean, that's the first bit of our discussion, was that this discussion we're having comes on the back of the continuous stay of the current CHRAJ boss in rented accommodations, in a hotel, actually. I mean, we're wondering why it still has taken so long for the commission. I know you've been a former boss at the place. I mean, does it take that long for renovations to be conducted on the official residence of the sitting commissioner?
Well, I think this is a question that you should put to the authorities, particularly the AESL and the contractors that are responsible for the renovation. I don't see why it should take so long for the house to be renovated. When I left the house, it was in a habitable and good condition, except for the fact that it was vacant for about a year, and therefore anybody who would come in would have to do some minor renovation. In this particular case, I'm fully aware that the commissioner herself requested structural changes to the building, and that is part of the reason why it has taken that long. There may be also financial constraints, I don't know. But I have no idea why it should take 3 years to renovate a building which I left, in a fairly good condition. When I entered the building, it was a new building. This was in 1999.
I see.
It was a completely new building, so I really can't understand why it has taken so long.
Right, and so, I mean, on what conditions do rents keep, does the commission, CHRAJ, continue to pay rent temporarily whilst renovations are underway? Who pays for them? And under what arrangements are these made?
Well, I have no idea at the moment. Obviously, it has to be the state that is paying. It's coming out of the commission's funds, I would assume. I couldn't imagine that she would be paying, all that money out of her own pocket, And if the minister says that, or if there is a policy that 20% of your salary should be given you as allowance, if government cannot provide accommodation for you, then the question that one may ask is, why is that policy not being enforced, and why?
That's right.
Are people, staying in hotels, and renting accommodation that are so expensive? It means that policy is not being implemented.
It's not been implemented.
The way it should. Yeah.
Justice Short, we are grateful for your time. We know that some of our questions are supposed to be directed to other people, but you've answered duly. We're grateful for your time on today's big story. We still have Samson Ahi on the line. So, Mr. Ahi, let's return to our discussion. You did mention from the earlier submission that was made by Justice Short that the consideration is under discussion, that you're still considering whether to phase out the policy of free accommodation. Are there timelines, or these are just things that have just come up and not really committed, and the government is not really committed to?
No, what I said was that I think it's a good debate, which is all Ghanaians must, discuss it and take a decision as to the way forward. But what I meant was that...
Right, Samson Ahi, I think we lost Samson Ahi on the telephone, and he was making very important discussions about whether to phase out the policy of free accommodation to government officials. Samson Ahi has made reference to quite a lot of challenges that government workers face in their commuting to work back and forth, for which he feels that is the reason why government continues to house public officials. So, Ms. Ahi, you're back on the line. We're grateful. Now, I'm concerned now, we're making a little shift. We don't have a lot of time, that the CHRAJ commissioner still lives in a hotel and is paying so much. At the cost he's paying, and you have mentioned, Justice Short made reference to that, that you said that sometimes 20% of the salary is made available to whoever is facing the situation that the CHRAJ boss is facing. Why has this rule not applied to the commissioner?
I don't know, but the policy is what I've stated as it stands now, that if you're a public official who is entitled to a state housing you and you are not you are giving 20% of your basic salary. That's the policy which is being implemented. That is what we are enforcing today. So I am not in a position
that does not affect Ms. Loretta Lante?
It should because she is a public official. That is why the state should have give her accommodation.
So there's a suggestion here that the law is being broken. I mean, just to favor her to continue to live in a hotel and pay $450, even if she has been there for 3 months now a day.
The problem with this issue is that I agree that whatever money they are using to do the renovation or pay the rent is a state money. It's coming from a government coffers. But we at the ministry, who is responsible for providing houses and then renovating the government houses, we are not part of this process, which because CHRAJ owns this property. They bought the property to use as a duty post for whoever is in charge or the head of CHRAJ. And so the renovation processes were not involved. That is why I'm unable to say categorically that whether it is too much or not, because our record, this facility, this house has been bought by CHRAJ and to manage it. Management of that house is not in our hands. And so it is managed by CHRAJ management. And so I guess they took a decision to do the renovation, and so we were not part of it. So it is difficult for me to speak to it. In fact, what would have happened if there are enough houses to house government officials, because the renovation is delaying, would have, allocated one to her. But you are aware that a lot of ministers, deputy ministers, as we speak, still don't have a place, including myself. And so that is why I guess he's still living there. Otherwise, we should have allocated one to her to live in until the renovation is completed.
Is this situation not embarrassing to the state, seeing that this came up and then it looked like we were waiting for a solution, nothing happened 3 months on? Does this not embarrass you as a minister of the sector, an important sector like this?
I mean, you know, this is a state institution. As I've said, even though they bought the facility with state funds, but management and control of the house is entirely within the purview of the CHRAJ management. So our minister has nothing to do with it. There is a property they have bought to use as a duty post, and so we did not allocate it to the woman, and so a decision to renovate it were not involved. That is why it's difficult for us to talk about. If you look at the principle, if you are talking about the principle behind it, then I can discuss it. But as I've said, this is a property for CHRAJ to use as a duty post, and that is why they have allocated it to the head of CHRAJ, and therefore a decision to renovate it was taken by CHRAJ management, and that is what they are doing.
Right, Samson Ahi, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. We've been trying to get to Vitus Azim, who's executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, who has some very strong views over the issue. He has called on the CHRAJ Commissioner, Loretta Lamte, to stop further embarrassing the commission and step aside and resign so that she will bring honor to the commission. We've not been able to reach him. We're also due to speak to Franklin Kujo, president of Imani, who also equally had some very strong views. But I'm afraid that's where we have to draw down the curtains. My name is Stephen Eti, and thanks for making time. We'll be right back with an interactive segment. Do stay.